We are live. All right, let's go. All right, let's hit
Are we?
Yep, yep. Just hit it. Hit your IG.
Yep. Okay,
Put it
that's
on
one.
one. Yep.
Number one.
Number one,
Number two.
number two, and number three.
Number two. And number three. Indeed.
Good, my friend.
How are you, man?
Hey, this is a wonderful Tuesday. The weather's not cold, first of all. It is sun shining. It's a beautiful day. I am not home yet, but I am near home. I'm closer to home that I've been in the last 4 weeks. So I'm over here in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. And where are you at, my friend, again?
I am in Orlando. And what are you up to? Because I know you're doing something very important.
I'm doing something
Um,
very important, but it's secret squirrel time. I can't tell everybody what I'm
you
doing, but I'm
can't you can't.
always doing something. So, what episode is this? This is
This is
26,
episode 26, my friend.
episode 26 of Roots, Heart,
And so
and so
we
Tasha
are
Todd
we are
Richards.
continuing we are continuing to celebrate Women's History Month. I
Right.
think
So
it's
season
important. It's
two
important.
has
It's
really had a
important.
lot of that in there. So when did we start Women's History Month? Who did we start it
March,
with?
March.
Yeah, and that was with the great.
Um, what who did we start it with? We
You started with Teresa. Go ahead and say her
Teresa
name.
Nelson.
Say it the way you did.
Therese Nelson. That's her name. Okay, you have to
Right.
spell it right,
Okay.
my friend.
All
No,
right. So
she
Chef Todd
was.
Richards, Chef Stephan on Heritage Radio Network. I mean, it was lovely speaking to. I mean, we could have went on 2.5 hours. We could have went
I
three
think
hours.
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
she's absolutely amazing. And
Right.
and and talking about amazing,
Right.
we have another amazing young woman whom
Yes.
I've been following uh, the last year. As a matter of fact, I've been on an Instagram all the time. And when we started this podcast, I said, "Man, we got to get her on there."
You did
So
say that. Yep.
and she is a disruptor. She is a creator. She is changing the game. She is changing the game in so many ways and making sure that equity and inclusion is part of her vision and her motto. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have her here with us today, man.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good, my friend. Especially in this climate that we're in right now. In this food world, this climate, this tariff world, this fake DEI nonsense that's going on. We need more stand up people telling the truth about our culture and including ensuring that all are welcome. So,
I
Chef
agree.
Stefan,
I
do
agree.
it proper. Go
So,
ahead.
ladies and gentlemen, it is with
Yes.
absolute pleasure and absolute pleasure to have Nina Oduro right here with us on Roots Heart and Soul podcast.
Thank you
Welcome,
so
Nina.
much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm amazed by how many things you were able to say about me just by following me on social media.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
I do my homework.
I'm excited to just be on the podcast and talk to you about all the things happening.
Absolutely.
Well, welcome to Roots Our Soul podcast. Todd Chef Todd Richards, of course, the great Chef Stefan. We really welcome you here. Because there's just a climate that's going on in the world that we need. More voices. To tell not only their stories but the truth of what's happening, how it's happening, and how do we continue to be change agents. For the world, and also make the world even more brown and black delicious as it is.
And I think we need to have what I call defenders of the realm.
No, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. I think
That.
we need to have defenders of the realm, and we have a duty and an obligation to do just that. Because
Yeah,
if we don't, then it is our fault that they end up dismantling us.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen,
So watch this. Listen, Nina, hold on now, because Chef Stefan's about to read your bio. So
Oh my goodness.
I tell people hold on, because only Chef Stefan can tell the world how important you are. So go ahead, Stefan. Let's hear
Nina
this.
Okay.
Nina Oduro is an entrepreneur, cultural curator, and culinary ambassador. As a CEO and co-founder of Dine Diaspora, she's dedicated to establishing a more equitable food system centered on the African diaspora. Nina drives strategy and creative direction through inclusive marketing and event production. She co-authored The Contemporary African Kitchen with renowned chef Alexander Smalls. She is also the co-founder of Black Women in Food to address the gap in support and opportunities for Black women advancement in the food and hospitality industry. Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Amazing. Absolutely. Absolutely amazing. So you know what? If you ever want somebody to read your bio, just take Chef Stephan on the roll with it. That baritone voice would just grab the whole.
You are killing me, man.
I know, right?
I mean, not everybody can read a bio that well, so
you're killing me, man.
All right. All kidding aside, but Stephan, why don't you start this one off?
Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in because I think the political climate today is trying to destroy the very fabric of what America should be, but also it is dismantling a lot of the progress that we've made today. And your platform, Nina, is being a defender of the realm. I use that word very, very, very with a lot of intention. Tell us a little bit about the platform Dine Diaspora, and the reason why you started with you and your partner, and what is the vision and the goal behind it.
Yeah, so honestly, I think these conversations, celebrating women, celebrating culture, are so critical right now. And so even in the midst of anything going on around us, that ability for us to convene like this and have conversation like this, I think is critical. Going back to Dine Diaspora, I, myself and my co-founder, Mami Boache, started this organization, company 10 years ago, 10 whole years ago. We had the vision of, I know, right? We just celebrated our 10th anniversary last year. So we're in our 10th year.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy. But back when we got together, we didn't really know that it would be a 10-year journey, right? Back then, what we knew is that we wanted to start something that, one, brought people together over food, but two, fostered meaningful connections. Both of us living in DC really felt like what was missing in our interactions with people were deep connections that led to impact, change. And what we centered it on is the food of the African diaspora. We also felt like the foods that we grew up on, the foods that we knew, were not being centered enough. Yes, DC is a very vibrant cultural place. However, even in DC, we felt like that work could be done even more. And so we started Dine Diaspora with our first dinner to achieve that. Years and years later, working with many people across the food industry, chefs, marketing campaigns, productions, events, we've really been able to leverage the storytelling, the marketing side to be able to work across the food system. And we continue, right? Even as today, we continue to work across the food industry, working with different clients from sometimes it's like Facebook or the World Food Program or the government, at least if that's still possible. Well, it's not possible at this point, but we've worked across industries to really bring experiences, voices, and the impact of African diaspora cuisine to those spaces.
So briefly, I would just like to understand, when you say cuisine and you say African, but how broad is your interpretation of cuisine, and then how does it then interpret the culture that you all are representing?
One, I think that's a great question, right? Because African diaspora, huge concept. We define the African diaspora as not only people with heritage from the African continent itself, but then the expansion of it. So across the world, all of those that have linkages to the continent. So just starting from there. And then when it comes to cuisine, the relationships that we have to the starting from the continent, but then all the ways in which we've been able to translate that to wherever our people go. And so one thing we never do is police what that means. It is important for us as dying diaspora to recognize that the expressions of who we are is just as meaningful and important across all of the representations and the cultures that we have. So where someone is doing fine dining, someone is doing, carry outs, that's all part of our culture. And each element of how our food is expressed is part of our people and deserves recognition.
Wow. That's a mouthful. And it comes to mind. Your definition sounds so on point, especially when I had the privilege, and I say privilege because when I get the opportunity to work with such an amazing chef like Todd Richards on his cookbook, and he made sure that we actually did the research. We actually went to the different countries. We visited different islands. We went to when we came to New York, we visited as many cultures as we could to write Roots, Heart, and Soul. And it's been an amazing journey, I have to say, from research to development to see the final product. I couldn't be prouder of being part of that project.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to the story that we just had Chef Pierre Thiam on our podcast, such an amazing guy who has been an advocate for West African cuisine in general, but also talks about sustainability and how we can, with a very simple grain feed the planet.
Absolutely.
All of these things sort of gives meaning to the work that we do, and at the end of the day, the center of gravity is Africa,
mm-hmm.
whether we want to admit it or not.
Absolutely.
And from both of your last names, from you and your partner, I can already deduct that you guys have an African last name, which is interesting. But where are you from? Where are you from in Africa? And tell us a little bit about your culture.
Yeah, so I'm from Ghana specifically. My family, I was born in Ghana. So I came here at the age of 7, grew up here, grew up in Northern Virginia. And so I, have my Ghanaianness at home and just with my family. I, of course, have my Americanness as well. And definitely my culture has being parts of all of those elements, right? Having the US side, having the Ghana side has really informed a lot of how I see the world, foods that I gravitate towards too even. And my partner, Mami, is also Ghanaian as well. And just even the ideas that I initially was born, I was born in Ghana. I'm an immigrant myself, a child immigrant, and having to be a way in which even my parents were experiencing being kind of navigating US culture with me, and me having to maybe get them to understand things as a child. So just there's a lot of things I feel like my lens, it allows me to be an insider, but also an outsider at the same time.
I think that explains that yellow wall that's behind you. There's the color of the flag. I think we picked on that really, really strong, which is great though. I mean, it's so great to see people represent their family, their culture. In our climate right now, everyone wants to take the hyphenates off and just say they were all Americans. But but that is such a simple way of defining people. That is such as the way of putting people and making people numbers and things like
Yeah.
that, and give them, and basically just casting them to a social economic form that someone else might be more comfortable with to understand. But also when it comes to the food, it's so important to understand it.
Mhm.
So what are the differences that you find, between in Ghana, in food related and the way people eat, compared to coming to the U.S. and seeing the way people eat in the U.S.
I'll say maybe I'll tell you a story about when I first came here. I think as a child, you don't really have all you know is who you are. You don't really like you just do things, and you're not as exposed to difference until you're told you're different. And so, 7-year-old, first thing I had to do was go to school, in America, meet my peers. And I remember getting my lunch and then starting to eat it with my hands. And the idea that we
Mm,
eat with our hands and we approach
mm,
food, the first way that I would think as a child to approach food is to put my hands in it. And I
right.
remember my classmate saying, "What are you doing?" Because I needed a fork. I think it was a salad, and I wanted to pick it up with my hand and just go, one by one. She was just like, "Oh no." And it made me feel really bad. It made me feel like I wasn't aware, just an outcast in the something everyone is in on, and then you don't know. Um, and those kind of moments are moments where you wake up and you're like, as a child, it's like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, even though there's nothing wrong with it.
Mm,
Because other children have been also conditioned and told and raised to believe that their way of life is the right way, right? And when you're a child and you come into contact, someone has to correct the other person. And being an outsider, I'm automatically the one in the wrong. So that kind of exposes some of like the differences that I encountered, even without anyone telling me that,
mm.
oh, eating with your hands is something from my Ghanaian-ness. And then, of course we have utensils and stuff, but just broadly, the idea of approaching a lot of foods with your hands is, and a lot of foods that are meant to be only eaten with your hands. People would even get mad at you if you try like eat fufu with a fork or something. Um, so it's definitely one
I,
that comes to mind.
I'm the absolute
That would
worst.
actually be very crazy to eat fufu with your hands.
I'm the absolute worst, and he'll tell you that because I don't care if I'm spending $500 a plate or a dollar a plate. I eat everything with my hands. I just like I need to know the texture. I need to know what it feels like. I need to know all those things before. So I'm actually, and then if you look at sushi, you go to omakase. There's no chopsticks. There's nothing like that. So we accept cultural differences. From certain groups of people, but not from everyone else. So you're listening to Roots Heart Soul podcast. Todd Chef Todd Richards, of course, my brother from another mother, the great Chef Stephan. We're here with Nina, and it's such a pleasure to have her on. Chef Stephan, what's your next question for this?
One of the things that being from Haiti, I think we have a special connection to Africa that has somehow we know it's there, but there is a middle of fog that sort of disconnects us. And when you really insert yourself in Haitian culture, you you see Africa, and you see Africa in a major way. Um, you know, um, that connection seems to even fade even more when you're here in America, because instead of somebody wanting to find out about you, they have a automatic, you know, jerk reaction to
Almost a
certain things
pretense.
that you do.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, how do you navigate that, not as a child, but also as a professional woman in the world, educated woman in the world, um, who is doing the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah. I mean, you're perfectly right. It's coming into, a culture where you're different, right? Where your customs, the way you speak, um, even sometimes your values are different. As a child, I think there's a lot of wanting to just not be different. And so I think as a child, a lot of the ways in which I learned to just be myself was my family, having that support system back home where you come and you cry and they encourage you, where you come and you tell them stories about what someone said. And, my dad was very keen on, just trying to instill confidence that whoever or whatever was happening and whatever was making me feel less than, usually, teasing, especially of being African, things like that. My dad kind of never saw that as a deficit, right? So there was a lot of encouraging me to have that confidence, even though I wasn't surrounded by all Africans everywhere. And you didn't need to be, I think, but my family was very, very, made that very poignant. Another thing is that I still speak my language. And so in my household, I think that just kind of signifies the pride that was also there, because you can be far away from a lot of things, right? You can be far away from where you live, you go places, but for anyone that is transplanted somewhere else, there's something in your heart. And for my family, the language was very critical to make sure that I retained it. One of the biggest reasons was also because my grandmother does not speak English. And so my parents wanted me to always be able to have a conversation with her, and for us to be able to have a relationship.
I think it's very similar. I think it's very similar in the Haitian household as well.
Yeah,
That's what keeps us tied up to Haiti.
yeah.
Um, like the other day, I'm watching a short video, um, and I'm listening to a Brazilian talk Creole.
Mm,
Not understand. I'm like, and that reminded me, Todd, of the reason why we do Creole Food Festival.
Absolutely.
Um, it reminded me of the reason why we do this festival with Fabrice is because that is really a celebration. We fail to understand how Creole is
yeah,
sort of the glue between all of the cultures that have gone to Latin America and the Caribbean
yeah,
from Africa.
yeah,
I still think that term is still misunderstood, though. I mean, we saw that in when we did Creole Food Fest in Atlanta, and we're still trying to explain that it's not just New Orleans. When we
yeah.
use that term. So you're absolutely right, Stefan, in saying that. Nina, you all are taking on an industry that is known for chauvinist, sexist, blatant racist, uh, economic dysfunction and suppression. It is not kind to all, um, but it is exploited when you look at the dishes that others are putting on the table out of the African food realm. So where did you all get this intestinal fortitude, just to come and say, damn what you guys are saying, damn what you're doing, we have to make this right, and this is how we're going to do it.
Honestly, I myself and my partner Mame, we come out from outside of the food industry. So that's number one, right? So coming outside of the food industry, we come from backgrounds where we had been defending people's rights agencies. I come from international development, where I'm working on strengthening and supporting people to have voices in communities where they may be suppressed. I'm working to support people to build their leadership skills in spaces where they may not feel like they have power. And she comes from the lens of supporting people to have access to government spaces and voices and organizing. And so we already had, I would say, the training that is required to identify problems in communities and to design solutions. and not to give up. I would say that too. We had a lot of resilience. But just identifying these things through diaspora is how we actually began a lot of the focus on equity that then became Black Women in Food. So diaspora, it's a marketing and events agency. We work with clients, we produce, we do a phenomenal, exquisite productions. But along the way, we were working entirely with a lot of men in the industry. We were kind of going the path that we already saw or was already told to us as success. Work with the men. The men, they have the name, they have the experience. And as women ourselves, Black women ourselves, we saw that we were leaving our women behind and not engaging them, not supporting them. So we stopped ourselves from continuing to build. And I think that kind of gets at the question. That was the main thing that we needed ourselves to say, hey, it's great to succeed. It's great to get opportunities, but we're not going to leave ourselves behind. And so instead of perpetuating the cycle of working over and over with, accomplished men in the industry, which they were great and still support us today and still part of our work, we decided to focus on how we can integrate women, how we can make sure that women are also supported to have the same level of success or even more when deserved than some of their male counterparts. And so that's how Black Women in Food came along. But it was really because we identified a need, and we had the experience, and we had the courage to just start. And these isms and things that affect the industry are not for just one organization or one person to tackle. So we knew that we could do it and everybody else could do it too, that there wasn't going to be just one opportunity. And I think today there's various organizations, there's various people that are doing, incredible work, and we need each other. This has to be an ecosystem of support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself.
Since it seems that we're seamlessly jumping right into the conversation. Black Women in Food. You are celebrating some amazing talents, some new talents, some older talents. Tell us a little bit about this platform and this event, because I know that you're going to be recognizing a lot of women that are doing some amazing things in the food and beverage space. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Black Women in Food is our organization. It's a nonprofit element of our work that identifies and supports Black women in advancing in their food-centered careers. And we have a few components of this work. The first one is our awards. In order for people to be supporting and recognizing Black women, they need to know who they are, and they need to know who some of the game changers are. And so we designed the awards to really recognize and tell their stories. So we have already announced this year's honorees for our awards. And so all March, we amplify them across our social media. It's like a takeover. We tell their stories, and the awards have categories that are actually across the food system. So we have everyone from food activists to chefs and caterers, all the way to food scientists and some of the innovators in the industry. And our goal here is to ensure that we are amplifying these women that are already doing the work. This is not about come and support me or whatever. But these are incredible women across the food system, paving the way for all of us to be able to do the work that we do. The second part is access to capital. One of the things that we've heard the most from women is, look, we need money to be able to do our work. And this is part of the challenges that they face all the time. Women that have their own enterprises and businesses, right? And we also know that across, even outside of the food space, Black women are the least funded when they have businesses. So put those two together, add food to it, we know that it's not looking great. So whether these women are whatever kind of businesses they're building, we're finding them funding support. So I'll tell you a little bit about how that integrates into our summit. So that's the other element, events and opportunities for women to network, to find solutions to whatever they're building or doing. And that is a part of that is our summit. So our summit happens in April, this April, April 25th and 26th, if you're looking into it, in Washington, D.C. This is our third year of bringing around 400 women together from the US and some from international locations to be able to network and access resources and problem solve their issues together. And so at that summit, we also have a component where we have women pitch for funding for their businesses as well. And this is in partnership with New Voices Foundation.
Wow, that is great. You're listening to Roots Heart Soul podcast. Chef Todd Richards, of course, the great Chef Stephan. We're here with Nina. We got to give a shout out to one of our podcast compadres, and she's not a compadre. We're still learning from her. We have to give a shout out to, of course, Dana Cowan. Dana Cowan was a former editor of Food and Wine magazine, and now she's always been on HRN, and it's really great to have her show Progressive Hedonist on HRN as well, celebrating food and wine and all those things that take place. And we're also, really glad to always talk about our good friend Zella Palmer, who's a neighbor me as well, who's down in New Orleans and at Dillard University, and just making the whole world understand Black, Brown, and Native American foodways across the world. So we'd like to give a shout out to everyone at HRN, but we want to highlight these two people, our two podcast mates for sure.
Absolutely. Zella is absolutely on the grandstand of people who are really doing amazing things in the food space.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Nina, when are you running for Congress? Because it seems like you got a whole political realm here.
I can see it. I can see it in the future, man. I can see it in the future.
Let me tell you, the most interesting thing is my first degree is in political and social thought. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you never know.
So like we need you, in on the Capitol right now. More so than
listen. With her resume, resume, there's no way she's missing the boat.
If y'all ready to fundraise, I'm ready to go.
Right.
Masters from Columbia University, bachelor's from University of Virginia, and a certificate from Cornell in diversity and inclusion.
I mean, what else do you do? Well, you've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, on Roots Heart Soul podcast.
Are we launching a campaign here?
You're launching the campaign right now.
Absolutely. So tell us, Nina, when is the award event, and when is the conference, to share with some of our viewers and followers? I think this is important. These two events are going to be super important. I love what's happening in the food space right now, with different conference, different. We have the State of Black Food coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I definitely want to connect you guys together. Mm-hmm. I'm part of the committee on that. Creole Food Festival. We've been wanting to do Creole Food Festival in DC. I think you'd be a perfect partner for that.
Yes.
Bringing in, different chefs from the African diaspora, who celebrate Creole culture. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so our awards, unfortunately, y'all can't attend it. It is
it's a woman thing. We can accept that.
It's a private celebration. We host a private celebration that's actually virtual for all of our women that are new awardees and past awardees. So every year, all the new ones come get celebrated. They meet all the old ones. So right now we're around 250 something awardees over the 8 years that we run it. We'd have to add it up. It's over 240. And so unfortunately, it's not up for attendance. However, the summit is. And so our summit is going to be in April, like I said, April 25th and 26th in Washington, D.C. It's 2 days. So day one is our marketplace, our pitch competition, different what I call like meetup groups. So different groups where you meet up on your interests. And then day two is our day where you have your panels, your workshops. We have our, really renowned speakers come and share their experiences. Portraits, like if you need your portraits done, book signings, there's just so much going on. And what I'd like to say is that while this conference centers the needs and experiences of Black women, it is open to everybody. And what I've loved seeing the most is when Black men show up for their women. Okay. So we've had a lot of Black men coming and also just reaching out. What can we do for the conference? And I want to shout them out, just even sending our volunteer team food sometimes. So I think the ecosystem works because we are a community. And so if you are a guy, if you are not Black, and this is some place where you want to support, come. You are embraced, you are welcome. And all I say is recognize that the topics, the ideas, and the experiences will center Black women.
Well, you definitely have a speaker with Chef Todd Richards, who
Yes.
just published Roots, Heart, and Soul. And there's nothing I would love to see more, because there are a number of books that are celebrating the African diaspora. I would love to see a panel with Alexander Small, Chef Todd Richards, and some of the others to really have a conversation, a much deeper conversation on how do we celebrate our culture from coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
Those books are amazing. We'll definitely get you a copy of Roots, Heart, and Soul. It'll be a pleasure to send you a gift, Nina. And I know that you've also worked on a book with Alexander Smalls.
Yes.
Alexander is a renowned musician and chef. He's done a few books. I have one, two. But tell us about this new project.
So one, it was such an honor to work with Alexander Smalls. The Contemporary African Kitchen came out in October. So we're still doing some press runs, doing some tour stuff. So people might catch us in a city. We just did an event with Chef Eric Williams at Virtue in Chicago. And so look out. I'm not sure exactly. We're pinning down the next date where we're going to go. But essentially, this project came about because Alexander and I met years ago. That's a whole nother story about our meeting. But over those years, we became friends and really connected around our impact, the impact that we want to make through the lens of African cuisine. Over the years, we did projects together, one of which includes a film that I shot with him in Dubai at his African food hall. And along that journey, he really got to know my work as well, right? So when the book opportunity came up, it was sort of a really important moment where he invited me to be his co-author. And what that looked like was, this book is not a book where, I'm not a chef, y'all, so you're not going to find a recipe from me in this book. But Alexander is also a chef, but he has no recipe in this book, because this book was really about who is in Africa working on African food today. And so we put our heads together and we identified those chefs and what I call culinarians, really shaping African food today across the whole continent. And if there's some that may be outside the continent, but have projects and really have their hands in the work of food and on the continent. And so that's how the book came to be. And so I'm really proud of just the collection the documentation of African cuisine in this kind of way. I think it's, a book that will last a lifetime in terms of how people will use it to look at what African food is right now and what, it could be.
That's amazing. And I know you had an event with Alexander and Chef Pierre Thiam,
Yes.
a very good friend of mine, that I got to invite to Haiti, when I was producing the Haiti Food and Wine Festival, um, the same year that I brought Chef Todd to Haiti as well,
I have to
to
Absolutely.
experience
I'm
Absolutely.
to
ready to come.
experience Haiti.
And I'm like low key jealous you guys got to hang out with Eric. So, I'm a Chicagoan, but from birth. I went to high school right around the corner from Eric's restaurant. So I was in the
Yeah.
Hyde Park area, and you guys got to hang out together. And I was like, I missed you all by a week. I was there like a week before, and I was like, man, I should have stayed, but
It was a
business,
good time.
business
Definitely
is
missed you.
business. You know, I want to talk about DC because I believe that like New Orleans. It is such a central, you know, black culture place, but I think it's still misunderstood in the sense that, you know, they don't know what to expect from the foodways in DC. But then when you start going around, you understand it quite more. You know that go-go is on every corner, but the drum is part of African culture, so it makes absolute sense. So, what is DC dining like from the Black experience?
I love DC too.
Mm-hmm.
I love DC because I would define our dining and Black experience as eclectic. And I think that is something that it's a good thing to me because we have a little bit of everything. And by that, I mean, we have not just different cultures. I mean, this is one of the places where we have the most highest population of Ethiopians outside of Ethiopia, right? In
Wow.
DC.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So we have that going on. We have a lot of different African cultures, are well represented here. But then we also have the African American experience as well, rich here. And African Americans have been here for a long time. And so there's some places that have been here and lasted the test of time, like Ben's Chili Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
that survived years and years of the civil rights movement and all those things that strove to kind of tear it apart and tear Black culture and Black experiences apart. So for me, DC is rich in Black culture and Black identity from across the diaspora. The Caribbean culture is representing as well, and so for a lot of people here in DC, especially growing up, where there wasn't a lot of West African cuisine as far as restaurants and things, it was Caribbean cuisine that was holding us all down. Those
Right.
existed before the West African places popped up, right? And so for I think there's an evolution over time as I think African Americans paved the way for Caribbeans and then Africans, and it just keeps expanding. And for me, that pathway is so critical and you can feel it in DC. The other element I would say that I love here is that you can get food for $15 or you can get food for $150 and it could be all Black food, right? You can get
I went to one of your $150 places
Uh-oh.
a week. It wasn't that this past a Sunday ago.
That's correct.
I did to go for your $150 places. So
yeah.
I definitely can understand that, especially when I got a fried leg and thigh, side of collards, side of sweet potatoes,
Mm-hmm.
and sauce, and it was $51.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's
So
funny. It's funny that you're mentioning Ethiopia
Mm-hmm.
because um, I also love DC very much. Some of my biggest work in promoting Haitian cuisine has been in DC with the Haitian embassy, as a
Mm-hmm.
culinary ambassador.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is discovered, we have a green that we eat quite a bit in Haiti called lalo, which is
Mm-hmm.
Lalo, and it's actually the English word is jute leaves. And
Mm,
jute leaves was first seen in Ethiopia.
mm.
And it's an absolutely when you cook that with either some goat or some crab, you serve that over white rice, and
Wait, 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 wait. You
you eat
said
with
with
your
crab?
hand.
You said with
Yeah,
crab?
crab, blue crab,
Blue crab.
blue
Oh
crab,
man.
baby,
I'm
Okay.
hungry
blue
already.
crab, baby. And let me tell you, it's absolutely amazing, especially when you are picking up that white rice and that lalo together and putting that in
Yes.
your mouth. What an experience! What an
I mean,
experience!
Stefan does this every time. Like right before we get ready to close, he starts talking about food and
I'm
gets
sorry.
everybody hungry. You know, everybody
What an
hungry.
experience! And
You know.
you talk about fufu. We also have fufu in Haiti,
Hmm.
um, but we use we also call something we also call another dish which is similar to fufu, but it's called tom tom, and
Yeah, we have tom tom too.
it's made with breadfruit. So we
Hmm.
use the breadfruit for the
Yeah.
starch, and then we cook down callaloo, okra
Hmm.
with crab and other things, and it is all about the handling of the hands. It's it's all about the handling of the hands.
See,
Well,
So
I definitely.
I think I'm doing something over here, frying grits and using it that way. You talking about fufu and don't talk. You're listening to Roots Heart Soul podcast. Todd Chef Todd Richards, of course, the great Chef Stephan. We're here with Nina, you know, and just talking about all things DC food. We're starting her campaign for Congress here. You know, we're just doing whatever we do here on Roots Heart Soul
whatever
podcast.
we do.
You know, whatever we do. You know, discussing African, you know, food ways, you know, African life, but also African American experience, and seeing it through the lens of all people of color.
Absolutely. So Nina, as we come close to the end of our hourly
It goes
podcast,
fast, man. It goes
unfortunately,
fast.
it goes fast.
Yeah.
You talked about women in food, the award show. You talked about the conference. Um, what else is in the agenda? What else is in the calendar? Where can people follow you and get to know you better? You and your partner and the work that you guys do. Share that a little bit with our audience and our friends who are following us today.
Yeah, so the best way to get connected to us is through our website, dinediaspora.com or blackwomeninfood.org. Sign up for our newsletter. So I'm a firm believer, I love social media, but I think we don't control those platforms. But we can control the access to getting our newsletters and our information to people. So also sign up for our newsletters. Don't just follow on social media. Get whatever we're doing first in your inbox. One of the main things I would say to people following this, if you're listening, is to consider how to, if you're wanting to support us, if you're far away, if you can't come to our events, you can also donate, especially to Black Women in Food. It is a nonprofit. The work we do, it comes back to the Black women that are working in the industry every day. These experiences that we provide, it comes from the support from the community. It comes from support from organizations that believe in this work, and volunteer your time. That's another thing I would say. We have come this far because of people that have volunteered their time. Time is currency. And I really want people to, in this time and age, I think, especially in this economic, I would say, instability that I think many are facing and the world is facing, we can't underestimate how much our time is valuable to others, and how much we can offer to others in our community by just donating our time to do something or to give something or to even have a conversation.
Well, I can tell you that you definitely have both Todd and I's full support. But I'm gonna throw something in the ring, and I think Dine Diaspora should definitely consider, as the appointed tour manager for Mr. Richards' book,
Okay.
Roots, Heart, and Soul. I think you should definitely consider doing an event in DC with Todd, not only for his book, and see where it goes from there. And I really think, a beautiful panel with all of these talented chefs who are really taking on the mental of promoting the African diaspora through food is a conversation worth listening to.
Absolutely.
Oh, so funny. You make me blush. I actually will be in DC, back in DC, April 19th. I'm at the Smithsonian doing Roots Heart Soul, event for Roots Heart Soul on the 19th of April.
We shall be there.
Definitely come.
Definitely come by. See you there.
Absolutely.
Stephan, take us out of here, my friend.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's the end of the hour, and we have to say goodbye. But it's only a pause, because we definitely want to bring Nina and her business partner back for another conversation. I think it's going to be as amazing as we had it today. If you want to support us, click on the like button, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then, of course, follow us on Roots Heart and Soul Podcast, and Chef Todd Richards and Chef Stephan .ietayti. That is the original name of the way Haiti was written by the Tainos. And we invite you to continue to support us and follow us. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know that you love the podcast and that you enjoy the podcast. And we look forward to next Tuesday, same time, same channel. Let's continue to celebrate women, because I think they are absolutely, absolutely amazing. They are doing some incredible work, and we need to stand behind them as we should. Chef?
Absolutely. Thank you all. You're listening to Roots Heart Soul Podcast on Heritage Radio Network.
Thank you, Nina, for joining us.
Thank you.